Here's a few, back this out. We'll come back to that. I haven't answered Andrew's question yet about the angle. We'll get to that. Recognize this? This is not as wobbly as it looks.
You can't say that.
You recognize it? That's Archie Briggs. That's Archie Briggs. That's my commute a couple days a week. What's the grade in that hairpin right there, do you think? Now, I'm not talking about the overall grade of Archie Briggs. I'm not talking about the overall grade of Archie Briggs. I'm talking about that particular hairpin right there. 15%? 12%? 12%? Estimate, or actually in this case, guesstimate, because it's kind of hard to pull that three-dimensional look from this two-dimensional piece of... 5. 5, 12, 4, 15 I heard. That hairpin is actually 16.7 right there. Has anyone ridden a bike up that hairpin? It's awesome, isn't it? It's awesome. You talk to God a little bit. Yeah, it's awesome. And the Cascade cycling class, they do it 6 times. They do a loop and they do it 6 times, like a 20-mile loop 6 times. Crazy, crazy. It is not 16.7 the whole way. Right before that, you drop into the river, drop into a bridge that crosses the river. So you're going very, very quickly. Right up about here, you have to start pedaling again. Then you crank down shift, hopefully your chain stays on too. And you crank up here, very, very steep, very, very, it's not as steep here as it was back here. It levels off more like College Way about here. And then you hit the mailboxes, and it flattens off completely. Then you're 0. Then it ramps back up gently as it wraps around, flattens off, rises, flattens off, and then right before you get to Mount Washington, it kicks back up again. Not this steep, but steep. And then you hit the Mount Washington. We'll come back to that in a second. Recognize this? The picture flattens it more than it appears to be much worse when you're riding up this or driving up it on a bicycle. That's Juniper Street, which is 1 block over from College Way. It's 1 block over, 1 block east, I guess, from College Way. If you're on College Way going uphill, that's Portland up there. This is Ogden, I think. Is this road coming across here? I think. Yeah. Is that right? Ogden? Yeah. So if you think about it, when you're coming down Greenwood, you'll pass all the numbered streets, you know, 5th, 6th, 9th, 12th. Eventually you'll cross Juniper. And Portland actually rises. If you've ever come across Juniper, if you've taken Portland in towards COCC, not Greenwood, but Portland, they're basically the same elevation for a while, and then all of a sudden Portland rears its ugly head up and gets very, very steep and meets Juniper up at that intersection. And what's interesting is, essentially, the top of Juniper here is the same elevation as College Way is over here. So when I say that Juniper is a 17.7% grade, it's 17.7% on this section of it. Essentially, this part of Juniper here is nothing. It's basically flat. It rises a little bit, but it's basically flat. Which means, I have a question for you now. If this part of Juniper is 17.7%, and this part of Juniper is ish 0%, and they start, Juniper and College Way start at essentially the same elevation, and the top of Juniper here and the top of a corresponding section on College Way is essentially the same direction. What's the overall average grade of Juniper Street from Greenwood to Portland? It's a bit of a trick question because there's no math to do. It's the same as College Way, isn't it? It's exactly the same as College Way. What is the definition of grade? Rise over run. It's how much you rise over how much you ran to get there. You traveled the same amount of rise, whether you did it via Juniper by going flat and then ramping up. You rose the same amount of rise. I don't know what it is, but you rose that same amount of rise to get to what? You rose that amount of rise. Oh, it sounds perfectly fine. So you got the same height, and you went the same horizontal distance to do so. There was a difference. The difference was in how much hypotenuse you traveled along. But that grade doesn't care about hypotenuse. Grade has nothing, did I even use, we talked about the hypotenuse because we travel on that. Did we even use the hypotenuse in the calculation? No, because it's irrelevant. The only thing relevant is the rise and the run. That's the only thing that's relevant. So whether you go on Juniper or College Way, you're doing the same rise and the same run. So the average grade is the same. You're probably going to work a hell of a lot harder on this one to do it because you're cruising along, and that's a leg burner. That looks nowhere near as steep as it feels when you're on a bicycle. Anybody ridden up that one before? And there are some beasts on Aubrey Butte, Iowa Street, Glassau. That's the very tip of my commute now coming into work is the top of Glassau Street. Very, very steep. What's that one? Panoramic or something like that. Majestic. There's a couple really... Who the hell designed the roads on Aubrey Butte is a mystery to me. But he was a moron. Because thinking about the winters we have here, and how steep some of those roads are, I would stay in the house from like November through April. Honestly. And people that live there are probably rich enough to do it.
You're likely to get a car crashed into your house.
Not if you're up on Iowa, they're at the top. They are at the top of the butte. Everybody's going down from them. And I was cracking up there. I'm like, I can't do this in December. Find a different way to come up here. Because it is literally, it's steeper than any of this stuff. I haven't measured. I was going to go out there today during class, but I don't have time. I'm going to do it after office hours. Take a walk out there with my transit. Fair? Is everybody following? This is a subtle point. Are you following the deal about the average grade and how it's the same on either road? As long as you go, even if you go down. Oh, Krista, go. Okay, let's draw a picture. Let's draw a picture, shall we? I think that'll help. Good, good. Thank you. Thank you for telling me that, too. I appreciate that. I'm going to start and stop this again.